Hey traders, Raghee here, and in this video we're going to cover something that I'm going to be doing a whole lot more of next week, and that is not only taking a look at the broader averages, but also looking at the sectors within the broader averages for signs of either strength or weakness and maybe relative outperformance. And the way that I like to do this is take the broader average, like here we have the ES. So within the ES we know there are a number of heavily weighted names, and most of you know these names, things like Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, and Berkshire Hathaway. So those are your top 5 heavily weighted names within the, here, BRKB, there we go. These are the top heavily weighted names in the, and you can throw Johnson & Johnson there, JP Morgan. Okay, you get the gist of it, right? So the heavily weighted names are always on our radar. That's a given. Sometimes, however, the heavily weighted names have almost like another subsector, and it's literally the sectors. So then that brings us to specifically tech, which we could look at the QQQ or the XLK for. And I know I'm running through a bunch of symbols here, but you'll get the gist of it. And financials. So the top 3 weighted sectors in the S&P are tech, healthcare, and financials. All right. Now within these, let's just use healthcare. Within the second heavily weighted sector are a number of stocks, and they aren't going to necessarily be the stocks that are the top 10 or even the top 5 on the broader average. There's going to be a separate little list. So in this case we have Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, UNH, and Merck. And I think Abbott rounds out the top 5. Right? Now these names aren't names that you're going to see in the top 5 of the SPY when you break that ETF down, or you break down the S&P futures. I think Johnson & Johnson comes in at 6 after Berkshire Hathaway. So you're not always going to see these sector heavyweights really high ranked within the broader average, and yet they are a major part of the broader average because they're heavily weighted sectors. So what I'm going to do as we go into next week is, one, do the heavily weighted stock breakdown within each of these broader averages. Again, break down the S&P into its top 5, top 10 names, but then also take a look at the top 10, 5, or even the top 5 to 10 in tech, in healthcare, and in financials. So that would mean QQQ, XLV, and XLF. Break those down and look at those heavily weighted names. And as we start to trade through next week, I really want to be not only armed with knowing which sectors are leading, which stocks within those sectors are leading, but that's going to oftentimes be a very efficient early warning system for what's happening with the broader averages. Those stocks, those sectors, before you start to see the S&P succumb to either a rollover and a sell-off, or a second push higher and a rally. That might seem kind of cumbersome, and one of the questions you might have is, okay, Rog, that all sounds interesting, but how do I even get that information? I'm going to show you that right now. Head on over to ETFDB. And there's a lot of ways to do reverse searches and all sorts of things for this site. It's a free site. I don't even know the folks. I think it's a fantastic site. Let's just grab the Dow. Let's do a different index. So DIA would be the ETF equivalent for the YM futures. You click on holdings. Well, a lot of these names already should look very familiar. Terrific. Keep an eye on those, of course, because that is the Dow, really. But then head on down here, and you'll notice here's your sector breakdowns. What do you want to keep an eye on? Industrials, tech, financials. You can even look at healthcare. You want to look at the top 5 to 10 in each one of these names. So you're looking at, for XLI, you're looking at QQQ for tech, or even XLK. Then you're looking at XLF and XLV. And you'll do the same kind of breakdown here on ETFDB In the search criteria here, you'll type in each one of these names and do the same holdings search until you come up with a list that's really going to be a thorough look at that broader average. That's the way to dominate these futures contracts. And if you're a stock trader, coming at the stock market from a futures trader sort of paradigm is going to give you an edge that other stock traders just don't have. Check it out. Do a little legwork this weekend. Yes, I've given you some homework, but it's going to be well worth your time. This has been a big part of what I've been doing for a very long time. Break down those broader averages. Know what's inside them. I'll see you in the next update.